something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside.
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hairloss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Well, we made it, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out and sticking around for the broadcast. It's always great to be here on a Friday. Joe, as you know, I just flew back in from out of town. And don't say, yes. Boy, are your arms tired. And I have to say this, you know, there was a time in my life when I would fly back, say, from the East Coast, especially during the winter. Fly back into LAX or Burbank, wherever I was flying into. I really loved the life that I created. You know, coming from the East Coast, dealing with harsh winters, living in New York City, you know, growing up with a view of a brick wall, you know, all that shit. And moving out here over 20 years ago and just seeing palm trees really creates an entire different experience in your world every day.
Yeah. I can see that.
And I have to say that, you know, still when I fly back into LA, into LAX, I'm like, you know, I mean, this is the most beautiful state in America. There's no doubt. We have, I mean, so many, I mean, just the natural beauty is insane. But as soon as I get out of the airport, like I'm talking about in the airport.
Yeah.
There are, I mean, what are they called now? The unhoused? Is that politically correct?
Sure. Go with it.
You know, and you know, I pay like 13.5% state tax, you know, income tax. And, you know, for a while, it made sense. It was like, you know what? You're essentially, you're kind of paying a little extra to be in a great club. You have the great weather and, you know, everything's just so, you know, say you live in Calabasas, it's just beautiful out there, or in Beverly Hills, and there's just so much to do. And it's just, you know, it's January 12th, and it's so warm out. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm really at the point now, I'm like, is it worth it to me? Is it worth it to me?
A lot of changes since you moved to California.
I mean, you can still hide away. I have the ability to build walls. I know you can't say that either, but my own walls, I mean. Take care of myself, my family, and the people I love.
The key to that is to move into a place that already has walls that were built before you couldn't say, I'm going to build a wall.
That's true. Well, yes, I have the ability to live places that have walls.
There you go.
And even build tighter walls because it's just dealing with the neighbors is insane here in LA now. That's a whole other story. You don't know what to say. You're constantly walking on eggshells. You don't know who you're going to offend.
Mm-hmm.
I stay far away from pronouns. I don't assume anybody is a he just because he looks male or vice versa. I don't need the hassle. I'm confused. I'm an older person. I'm confused by it all. And that's not even saying that I care about any of it. I'm just confused by everything that I have to do and all the new rules. And the fact that, you know, this is, yes, it's the most beautiful state. Like I said, just the natural beauty and the weather and, you know, and it's just not what it was. Now I come in, it's almost like, oh, like you see the beauty of it from above, but then you get into the world and you're like, Where am I? What happened? Yeah. What kind of hellscape is this? The Uber driver is driving to the building here, and he's telling me, you're really lucky. This is a really beautiful place. Seems really safe. I'm like, this is Beverly Hills.
The whole place should be safe.
The whole place should be safe. Anyway, I guess it's still my home. Guys, the phone number is 888-659-3727. This is the Hair Loss Show. It's great to be back doing the broadcast. And just in case anybody was concerned, I bought a whole bunch of new equipment. Andrew Zarian from Guys from Queens and the Matt Men podcast will be flying out here in the end of the month and helping me configure the new computer, my new board, my new lights, everything, essentially, so that I could be in the 21st century of broadcasting and podcasting. Because my equipment literally, well, some of it literally. No, it was bought in the 21st century. But some of it's 20 years old.
But it was designed.
Yes, in the 20th century.
Yeah.
Just like me.
So there you go. Just like you. Right on.
So I'm excited about that. What is that going to do for the show? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do, really. I mean, we're going to continue to do the broadcast on Joe Tillman's The Hair Transplant channel on YouTube. We had an opportunity, and for a while, Joe kind of jumped the gun to work with Maxim, which is kind of like an old school. It was a really great men's magazine years ago that is now basically online, and it's digital. And, I'm still kind of working out whether or not we're going to do that. The opportunity is still on the table. But, if I'm going to do extra shows and extra work, I want to make sure it's hitting the right audience. You know what I mean, Joe?
I know what you mean, Spencer.
Or an audience.
I hear you. Well, we have an audience.
No, we do. We currently have a nice niche audience. I love it. But if I'm going to expend any energy elsewhere, I want to create a little bit more of a significant impact. Now, the problem with that is, and I'm sorry that if I'm rambling, guys, call the show. Otherwise, I go home. Well, actually, I am home. But otherwise, I turn off this mic. It's 888-659-3727. The phones were working just a second ago. The lines were lit. So hold on. No one has an attention span anymore. They can't just wait.
That's true.
I'm going to say one more thing, Joe, and that kind of bugged me this week. But, I get it in a way. All I did was put a clip about the conversation we had last week on post-finasteride syndrome and the reality of the history, how post-finasteride syndrome kind of came into the was put out there in the ether. And, it's interesting because people out there who were not involved in this industry or the history of it, who aren't really in this space, somehow believe that based on whatever information they have, or based on hearsay or gossip or something they read on a message form, that they somehow know what's real and what isn't, as opposed to just listening to the truth. This is the truth. There's no reason for me to say that post-finasteride syndrome just appeared one day 10, 12, 13 years after a drug was approved and used on the market. First for one indication, then another. Now, there's no reason for me to say that. I have no skin in this game. Just because I've been on the drug for so long, it really doesn't mean that I have any confirmation bias. I only have my experience to discuss how it's affected me in my life and the experience of those who have contacted me over close to 30 years. I also have the ability to relay the experiences of hundreds of physicians who have prescribed this drug to hundreds of thousands of patients. That's not hyperbole. Hundreds of thousands of patients over the last 20 some odd years. All I could do is provide you guys with the history, the truth, the information as we know it in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I got guys saying that I'm full of shit. This is bullshit. This drug is poison. Now, a couple of brave doctors came out and were like, I've been prescribing this for a very long time, and I've only had one case in the last 20 years, which is relatively recent, and he believed the guy came into using the drug already filled with anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Does that play a role? It can. Of course it can play a role. I don't think there's a man out there who hasn't had sexual performance anxiety at some point in their life, whether it was the first time doing it or whether they finally nabbed the chick that they wanted for 2 years. If your mind screws with you, you're done. Now, I'm not saying that post-finasteride syndrome isn't real, but I did write something in my little caption. Jeez, I keep getting texts. Jesus. That described what was happening before post-finasteride was actually written about, even the phenomenon, before the name was coined. And that was, some of you guys weren't even born yet, but there was a time when the natural hair growth industry was really battling it out with the pharmaceutical companies. And they were leveraging the fact that it was possible that you were going to have adverse sexual side effects and that our product doesn't cause these side effects. Now, do these natural products cause these side effects? Well, if anything that lowers DHT can cause similar adverse events. However, because the FDA does not oversee nutritional supplements, they don't have to be tested in that route. They don't have to state that that's the case. Now, I'm not saying that the things that are out there are causing people to have sexual dysfunction, but it's always a possibility with anything that you put into your body. But the point is, there was a concerted, that's a tough one, effort.
Concerted, yeah.
To put information online that finasteride was dangerous way before the first two guys documented their long-term adverse events. And I remember there was a company that was essentially trying to get involved with me that was saying that they wanted to leverage this, kind of talking about the possibility of, long-term side effects. We don't know what it's going to do to guys in the long term, so this is a good opportunity for you to kind of get involved with our product. And I was like, I can't do that, brother. Can't do that. And then there was a company, Avicor, that was promoting everywhere in the early 2000s.
I remember that. They were
and
everywhere.
I was contacted by the National Advertising Division of the Better Business Bureau because they were getting complaints and they wanted to know my thoughts. I was like, well, first of all, if you read the ingredients closely, they are using FDA-approved medication topically, and they're claiming that it's all natural. So, of course, people are going to have adverse side effects. If they can't use this medication and they don't know they're taking it, that's a problem. So anyway, very long story short, I helped them kind of work on a case. This company ended up having to kind of shut their doors. But the moral of the story is, all of this stuff was discussed by these companies who wanted to leverage these potential adverse effects, which were already listed, at least as far as lowered libido, lowered amount of ejaculate, potential, sexual dysfunction, things of that nature, to sell their products. So it was already put out there in people's minds. I'm not saying that these people don't have these adverse side effects. People suffer with gynecomastia from this drug. It's real. You're screwing with your hormones for sure. But just because I'm talking about the history of post-finasteride syndrome and what transpired and how it's become essentially it's about $1 billion a year industry. I could be wrong about that. You can check me out on that. It's close. All I'm asking is for your opinions, people. What do you think about this truth that I am putting out there? I'm not asking you whether you think I'm right or wrong. It's not a question of being right or wrong. This is the history. What do you think? Can't work with people anymore.
But
human beings do not interact well anymore.
But you got what you asked for. The guy gave an opinion.
Not an opinion on whether I was full of shit.
Well, that you can translate to that as being an opinion on the subject matter.
No, an opinion on, here are the facts. What are your thoughts? Like this is what really transpired, because how do I know? I was there.
See, but I look at it like this. He said you're full of shit. I choose to look at it as I disagree with what you're saying, Spencer. I disagree with that outline that you gave us. See, that's the way I look at it. He's just disagreeing with you.
But
he
how
just can't vocalize it properly.
I don't understand. Like so, if there's actual cited history, like okay, these people were here, and this is what transpired from A to Z. What benefit would it be to me to put that history out there and ask people's thoughts? It doesn't benefit me for you guys to take finasteride. As a matter of fact, as far as my organization is concerned, the IAHRS, it doesn't benefit my doctors, the doctors that are part of the group. It doesn't benefit me in any way. You know what benefits us? You losing your hair. You guys freaking out, going bald without any recourse and having surgery. That's of benefit if I want to just talk about dollars and cents. If I wanted to sell surgery or sell you some fucking product, that would benefit me. I am trying to tell you guys the truth. That's it. Sorry, rant over, guys. But it just... maybe I'm the crazy one, Joe.
Am I supposed to answer that?
No, I'm saying maybe I'm the crazy. Maybe believing that there are actual critical thinkers out there who are under the age of 50. Maybe having that belief is something that I shouldn't. I should just put that in the closet, and realize, you know what? We're dealing with insanity.
Well, okay. Well, two things can be true at the same time. There can be and are, I believe, critical thinkers under the age of 50, and it can be an insane environment that we live in that's almost impossible to get through without pulling your hair out. So,
guys, hold on. We'll take your calls in a second. Full board. Now we have half the board. Just let Joe answer the question. I did my opening. I'll take your calls.
It's just a matter of finding those needles in the haystack. And look, here's the thing. When you're getting those kinds of comments, it means you're getting attention.
I've gotten a lot of attention over the years, bro.
Good attention. Yeah. But in this space, the Instagram space, that's a good thing as well. What's interesting is I posted a reel the other day, and I thought this was really poignant because it was Bill Burr talking about...
It was.
Why worry about shit that hasn't happened? Basically, that's the message. Like, you're good now, right? Okay. Then why let the anxiety of something that may or may not happen in the future get you down today? And I translated that to people that aren't dealing with hair loss losing their minds, thinking the entire day through about potential hair loss. What if I lose hair? Like I've met guys that have hairlines that are lower than what you would consider to be aggressive, like just crazy hairlines, crazy density, front to back. Come to consultations when I was traveling in Europe all the time back in the day, saying that they were concerned about their hair loss.
You're a real man about town, Joseph.
I mean, you've all seen those things, the situations where someone with a full head of hair is, coming onto some format talking about their concerns, and everyone's like, "Oh, I wish I had your hair." No, these guys were much stronger than what you would normally see in that situation.
Yeah.
And they were convinced that not only were they losing their hair, but they had lost a lot of hair. I had one guy, his hairline was like this. Is one of those guys that where the hairline is just really unusually low, like Judge what's his name, Napolitano on on Fox,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
he's selling gold now, but yeah, go ahead.
This guy looked me in the eye and said, "I hope one day, if I have a transplant, my result will be as good as yours."
It's like, dude, your hairline is literally an inch and a half. I mean,
that's
forehead.
When it hit me.
Yeah, that's
when it hit me about this was many years ago, about how people view themselves, and it was. I mean, this is probably 2006, 2007, and I remember thinking that the exact position. It's like, why bother? Why concern yourself with it now? Well, there are a few cases where they actually do think that they are in that position. But for the most part, people are thinking about this unnecessarily. And the message is, deal with it when it comes. And you'll know when it comes. So instead of actually, like, the first response I got, instead of positive or, hey, that makes a lot of sense, I appreciate that, I was called a racist. for giving Bill Burr a platform because he's a racist.
You're kidding me.
No.
That's unbelievable. Women's Hair Loss Project has a good point, and I understand this point. That there are people who... Did I interrupt you, Joe? I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you?
Yeah, but go ahead.
It's a talk show,
What'd she say?
Go back and forth here.
I can't see what she's saying.
Essentially saying that, when people start off with a lot of hair and start to lose their hair, they feel as though, it's a major loss, even if you're not noticing it. Now, we understand, as far as a surgical side of things, that, look, even if you lost half your head of hair and you're a man that looks like he has a full head of hair with a hairline down to his eyebrows, you're not a candidate for surgery because surgery is going to make you lose the rest of your hair. But I totally understand her point.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, Joe.
I get that too. That's okay. I forgot my point.
Jesus Christ.
There was an end point to that. I don't know what the hell I was saying. Anyway, I do understand what Women's Hair Loss Project is saying, and I agree. The cases I'm talking about, I remember this one particular case. I even asked him if he's losing hair now, and he said no, but he feels like he is. In other words, he couldn't show me, or he couldn't show himself through counting of hairs or anything like that. It was just a feeling that he had. So it's a different situation. But the bottom line is, there are people in this world that do overthink it, and for bringing this information out, I don't know. The direction of the post was in the wrong direction after I posted this, and
it's funny. I didn't read the comments. I don't have to. I have time, but I don't take the time, and I should because.
Well, he deleted what he said and then unfollowed me because I challenged him on it. It's like you do realize Bill Burr is married to an African American woman and has biracial children, and you're calling him a racist, and then calling me a racist because I like this message, and then poof, he was gone.
Look, that shit, none of that shit does not fly with me. Doesn't fly with me. Sorry. You don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about Joe. That's what I would say. And if you think something that we decided to platform is somehow racist, and that equates to us being a racist, and then you have to be like, oh, how can I be a racist? I'm a Jew. Now I can't say I'm a Jew. You say you're a Jew.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in the crosshairs. So here's my thought process. Fuck everybody. That's it. You do the best that you can in life. You're a good person. You know? Treat people
I
well.
agree with that, but at the same time, like stuff like that doesn't bother me. It's just kind of, it confuses me. It's like, because I want to know more about their mindset to where they can come to that conclusion based on something I've done or not done. And I laugh about it because I think it's really asinine. I think it's really, small-minded to come to that conclusion. Not to mention ignoring everything else, the substance of the post, but coming to a really weird and irrelevant conclusion that just happens to be wrong as well. But it's just another window into the mentality of people.
Well, I mean, you're already pushing poison.
Well, of course. Well, that's,
so you're
that's
a
what we're
racist
paid to do.
poison pusher he's a shill for Big Pharma. That's it. Check. All right, guys, phone number 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
This is Adrian from Melbourne.
Adrian, you're holding on for a while, man. How are you? Thanks for holding.
I'm good. Spence, I go one step further. It's fuck you, fuck everyone, the horse you rode in on, and the cavalry behind it, mate. I hear you loud and clear, man.
Listen, everyone is afraid, to be, I guess it's canceled now. Look, man, people have been coming after me my entire career. I was being people were trying to cancel me before cancel culture existed. It's either the physicians or people who believed they were somehow competitors of mine. It was crazy. Absolutely insane. And every once in a while, there's still some nonsense out there. And I'm just like, you know what? Listen, this is what we do. You can either believe it or not believe it. You can say we're full of shit. It doesn't matter to me. If you listen, you have a fighting chance. If you don't, good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joe, that was a great...
By the way, Adrian, I want to congratulate you for being voted the #1 hair transplant result on the planet among all surgeries ever performed by every clinic that ever existed. Congratulations, my friend.
Think about the poor guys who are reading that shit, Adrian, who are like, wait a second. What about me?
I don't recommend it.
What about me?
For what I went through from the age of 18, I don't recommend being #1 in 2003. Trust me.
Well said. Well said.
For a tin of hair pomade and some hair fibres, I'm happy to pass the award on to someone else. But, I hear you, Joe, and it is kind of funny in a way. But,
well, you do have a great result, so mazel tov on that. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this is the thing, and I spoke with Carl, from Ireland, who is also a eugenics patient, and he put it very aptly. He said, look, it's not the amount of grafts per square fucking centimetre or whatever, it's how you feel on the inside. So if you're a Norwood 7 and you have the predisposition to be able to think, you know what, I'll worry about it when it gets bad, then you've won.
Yeah.
I mean, like Oscar Wilde said, the gift of getting older is wisdom, and youth is wasted on the young. And I've been guilty on all charges. If I was 18 today, I'm pretty sure I'd jump in on a plane to Turkey, and I'd be another one of those repair stories even today. But I guess all these things that people went around to experience, like the whole post-finasteride syndrome and $3,000 and unlimited grafts, sapphire blades, whatever. It's just all bullshit.
Well,
And,
I'm not going to say. I'm going to say that they coined it. They made it a term as post-finasteride syndrome. So I'm not going to say that what some of these people are experiencing isn't real. There is definitely an anomaly, like a weird phenomenon that's happening to some men. But because of that handful of men, it became mass hysteria.
Yeah. But you guys made a good point, I think it was last week, when you said, where were all the prostate guys who were using it for treatment with their support groups?
Yeah.
Didn't exist.
Oh, it didn't exist, but then these guys come back, well, they didn't really have a place to speak, or these were older men and they were impotent anyway. Well, you know what? Just because you're older and just because you have prostate issues, it doesn't mean you can't get it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Anyway.
I was going to say, I'm living proof of that, but that's probably too much information. But,
dude,
yeah.
I'm getting up there in age, man. I'm more than happy to tell people. If they ask me, I'm like, the drug has only been good to me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And look, this is a really good example. I'm 57. I'm just behind you. And unfortunately, I've had to come off the topical. I see Dr. Bevan Boyrell, and unfortunately, within 3 months, it starts with a loss of interest to having sex is like baking a cake that you hate. It's not there. And then, just like clockwork, 2-3 weeks after the drug, I get a rebound effect, and then, I look as young and feel as young as my hair in terms of my sex life. So, you, it's fantastic. I couldn't be happier. And for me, it's okay. I guess I'm lucky I was a Norwood 7, and there's not a lot more to lose. I'm lucky that I respond really well to oral minoxidil. It's like 5 milligrams a day. My hair feels thicker.
That's great, man.
Thicker.
Nice.
So
nice. Good for you.
What your post said, Joe, about I'll worry about it when it happens. I may not be around then too, but that's my philosophy on it.
And that's the truth, We may not be around. These kids may not be around. They have, people they're always like, oh, so how long will this work? Or how long do I have? First, the greatest question is, how long do I have to be on it, brother? You start these medications. You're on this shit for life. That's it. That's how it works.
And to take that even further, I don't know if I want to. I don't think I want to be on this for the rest of my life. I'll just take it, for the next few years, or while I'm recovering from my hair transplant. There are even some clinics that actually recommend that. Yeah, just take finasteride while you're during your recovery process for the first year. Then you're fine.
That's unbelievable.
That's right.
Really.
I'll stop 6 months, 12 months, and go off. I know.
That's like a dentist saying, you know what? You can stop brushing your teeth in a few years. Just brush them now. And you're going to be absolutely okay.
Yeah, wait till they fall out, and then you can stop brushing them because the new ones that come through. I know, it's rubbish. But that was a great post you put up, Joe, with... I'm a huge fan of Bill Burr anyway. But and that's the irony. He's married to African-American,
Yeah. And he's got at least one kid, yeah. But it's it was really bizarre to see that. I'm a huge Bill Burr fan. There's some aspects of his philosophies on life I'm not crazy about, but it's like it was just weird. It's out of left field. Wasn't expecting it. Completely unrelated and irrelevant, and as far as I'm concerned, completely untrue. But it was just just shows, like Spencer was saying earlier, it just shows the mentality of some people. They're sick.
Well, you have to understand when you're dealing with social media, there is a significant percentage of the mentally ill in the world, period. And mental illness has, I think, come to it's at a unique point now because so many young people are being medicated at such a young age, whether it's Adderall or Vyvanse or whatever. So kids are being put on medication. Their brains are being essentially it's like prescribed meth. So everything changes, and there's a certain aggression. It's just a different world, man. We're dealing with different people now. And you see all of the mental illness on. You just read. I love reading comments sometimes. I have nothing to do. If you see a funny video or an interesting video and you just read the comments, you're like, people are out of their minds. Truly out of their minds. So when you're dealing with in a situation like this where there's so many emotional aspects dealing with hair loss, there are people who either have had adverse side effects or do have side effects or whatever it is. In our world, the emotions have run high since we've been in this field. Mm-hmm. So I know that Joe posted something that was supposed to, he's trying to make it relevant to what we do. But it really did highlight, I think, just the mental illness out there.
Well, the idiocy out there, I know. And sadly, too, not just hair transplants, but let's say cosmetic surgery across the board, it just attracts people with the mental illness too. I mean, it'd be great to see if there was some kind of screening tool doctors would use when it comes to hair transplants for body dysmorphic disorder. It really would. They're
supposed to some degree, but here's the thing. These guys got to pay their kids' tuition. Here's what I would say that, the doctors who've made the mistake, when they come to me and they get they're in a bad situation with a patient, usually they will tell me, you know what? They sensed it. They sensed it before. It's very unusual for the craziness to come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So I always tell doctors, really, patient selection is key, and you really have to understand that. Yeah, take a look at their social media. Find out who these people are before you operate on them. Read their posts. Now you have access to what's going on in their heads. I don't think too many of these guys listen to me. One guy's starting to listen to me now and do that. Now, you'd say, that's an invasion of privacy. It's not an invasion of privacy. These people are putting this stuff out there publicly. If they have public profiles, check them out, because you're going to see the crazy before you operate on them.
Look, it reminds me of last week.
There's one clinic I know that actually makes patients take a psychological test exam.
I'd make them take a polygraph.
They're even accepted as a patient. Polygraph.
Well, there's one doctor I'd make have a psychological evaluation if I chose him for surgery too. So, it can go both ways, unfortunately, in this field.
It can go both ways. Drug use, alcoholism, just...
Oh, breathalyze them,
Let me tell you something. I mean, if you know someone's a drinker...
A bad man. You're a bad man, serious.
But if you know someone's a drinker, even just... Here's the thing. Here's how I feel about it. We all like to party. I don't really do it as much as I used to. But if I was a doctor or a surgeon, I wouldn't be spending my weekend. Even my weekend, I wouldn't spend drinking, because I know, especially as an older adult, if you're over 35 or 40, you're just not functioning the way that you should. You may think you are, but you're not. You're really not at the top of your game.
Yeah, and Spence, I've actually stopped drinking. I can't. The hangover, I mean, I'm talking like 5-6 beers max, and next day I'm rubbish. So I've decided it's not worth it, so I don't drink anymore. I'm good with that. My girlfriend, great. She doesn't drink. But, so rather than nursing a hangover or drinking the next day or whatever happens, I'd rather be spending it with my family, doing quality stuff. Because as we get, like I said, I'm 57. I'd rather be spending it with the people I care about. Not ranting at the people I hate. But you're right. Look, getting back just quickly to we're talking about people, patients, BDD, etc. But I was communicating with a guy on Instagram last week, and it's your average. Well, not average, but he's 22, had a hairline that looks terrible, wants it repaired. We talked a little bit deeper and deeper. I found out the guy has got autism. So it's not just people with people like myself. It's people with mental illness, but also with a disability.
Yeah,
and that really. And I'm at work now. I've been working disability for 33 years, and just it really hit me hard just talking with this guy when I found out they performed on a kid who's got autism.
Now, how bad was the guy's? Was he just on the spectum, or was he?
Yeah, let's say it's Asperger's in terms of he is on the spectrum, but he had enough nous and go with all to get to Turkey, but he went with his father. And I work a lot with parents as well. And being a parent of a child with autism, I mean, it just destroys marriages and whatnot. And my feeling is the father went and thought he could just observe, and if this would make his son happy and whatnot, he went along with it. And it turned out to be a bad decision because he just didn't do the research. Well, at least the father didn't either. But
so you're telling me, so this guy, this autistic kid,
yeah,
and would you say he's severely autistic? Not, I'm talking about like he's functional, but like he's quasi-functional.
Very mild intellectual disability, very mild, and probably on the spectrum. But he's diagnosed. He has a diagnosis of.
And how old?
22.
And how much hair loss did he have? I'm just curious.
I'd say I think he was a Norwood 2, if that.
All right, Jesus Christ! So he and his dad went to Turkey.
And he went to Turkey.
So tell me the outcome. I'm sorry, I was distracted for a second.
Okay, he's got a hairline that's a little bit juvenile, and it is pluggy. He can get away with it by styling it forward. I've recommended a few doctors. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I've just sort of suggested a few names that he might think about if he's looking at getting a repair, and he's quite anxious about it. He's on Finasteride, which is a plus, and able to take it, so that's good. And I've been sort of, Bill Burr about it. I've been trying to say, look, it is what it is, but let's not add to the situation. It's repairable. And out of this, there's a lesson in it for you going forward. Namely, A, stay on the drugs, but B, you got to realise that all that isn't gold. So if you've seen this on Instagram or whatever, behold. And
that's the opposite of Nancy Reagan's message. Our message is stay on the drugs.
Yeah, well, the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Their daughter didn't seem to have too much of a agreement with that. Didn't she do a spread for Playboy?
I think so. I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Now I don't watch porn. No, I don't want to get wrong. Yeah. So anyway, look, he's in a better space, but and I just use what I've been through as an example to say, look, see, I'm still alive. I'm still kicking around, and in fact on Facebook, yesterday I popped up a photo of myself with Shay, and we met before when I had my head shaved before I had surgery. And I'm trying to tell people, look, you don't need hair to be in a relationship. And even when I was young and losing hair, I still had chicks. I still had girlfriends and whatever. Internally, I was going through hell. But like all of us, we're just really good at hiding it. But the point is, you don't need hair. For anyone out there listening, if you're a young guy and you think you need the Brad Pitt hairline of the year or whatever, or the hair transplant of 2023, it's bullshit. You don't. You can shave your head, and it won't change one thing. You just got to have a bit of personality.
Well, for some people, it'll make life a little more difficult as far as the way they feel about themselves, and maybe the way that women react to them or men react to them, whatever it is. But it's something that can be, it's surmountable, and it's something that can that people can get past in their lives. Now, some guys are very lucky and they can just shave and actually look pretty close or as good, in some cases even better. That's kind of like the anomaly, I would say. Everyone always mentions, the four big names, like The Rock and Jason Statham and Bruce Willis. And, in our day, it was like, Yul Brynner.
Two people.
What?
No, Kojak. We had two people, friends. We had Yul Brynner and Kojak. That was it.
And now it's Michael Jordan, is thrown in there.
Yeah.
But the majority of guys, it's not the best look for them if they had the option to have hair. However, it's a good look for a lot of guys. But here's my philosophy. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with being concerned about it. There's nothing wrong with trying to treat it. You just have to know what the entire scope and all the possible pitfalls of each particular treatment. And the main thing now, more than ever before, is these young guys and women have to understand that hair transplant surgery, even in the best hands, A, it's not a quick fix. That's a lifetime commitment. And B, especially when you're young, you're probably not a candidate. People can't, you can't just go in there and fix your hairline and say, okay, I want to get back to where I was when I was in high school or in college or whatever it is. People really, this is the way it's being sold. This is what people believe. And this is what I'm trying to shake out of them. And I will tell you, I've been doing this for almost 30 years. It's worse now than it's ever been. But I realized this when I'm dealing with people on Instagram. I'm like, if I want to just continue to work forever, I'll never be out of a job. These people don't give, I mean, it's like they're fighting me basically to try to tell me that I'm somehow wrong about this issue. You know, it's like, all right, good luck. I'll see you on the repair side. And then we'll send you over to someone in the IHRS. And then, I mean, I will never be out of work with these people.
Yeah, I know. And you're right. It is worse. It's a million times worse today. And like we spoke about before with mental illness and social media, it's like, you know, it's like honey to the bee. It's just a recipe for disaster. And that's why your show is so important. And Joe, you know, I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me. And you too, Spence. I mean, without this show, it's the same deal. And every week you guys are saving lives. I mean, not just graphs. You are saving lives. Because people kill themselves.
No, I appreciate you saying that. In brief, I want to take another call before we let you go.
Sure.
But
no problem.
I was speaking to a young guy, and this guy had a couple of drinks in him. And I don't know if he was like super insecure or whatever it is. He's a nice-looking kid. And he came up to me to talk about, you know, we're having a conversation in a bar. And he said, you know, you're a good-looking guy. And I was just like, oh, thanks. He's like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, like a silver fox. I hope that I could look that way when I'm your age. And, you know, and then he started talking about losing his hair.
Silver fox.
Yeah. That's what he said. Silver fox. He started to lose hair. And I said, well, you know, I started to tell him what I do. And I said, look, this is a total comb over, man. It's a sham. I said, would you be happy with this hairline when you're, you know, 40? And he said, well, I mean, you know, but you're older. I said, I've had this same thing since I was 27 years old. I've grown into it.
Yeah.
You know, this is reality. If you can get to a point where you're content with what you have and medication is working for you, you win. You could be the silver fox, in quotes, when you're almost 60 years old. Like, to me, right now, the 7 head is acceptable to him because I'm older, but he wouldn't enjoy it for himself right now. And I think that's the mentality. It's like they have to kind of figure out, all right, what is going to be comfortable for them to live now and in the future. And you have to come to a compromise. And that's why these kids are jumping into surgery so young. They don't want to compromise.
And it is about living in your own skin and being comfortable. It's like what Carl said. It's about how you feel on the inside. It's not how you look, you know. And all I can say is I hope I win the Silver Fox of 2024. You know, if I can get enough nominations. But,
well, you need to let your hair turn gray.
Exactly. That's the whole thing.
That's the thing. That's how it works, brother.
Well, I grow a beard, but it's on my head. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So, guys,
Adrian, man,
thank you for everything.
That's good.
I want to give a big up
That's good.
to Women's Hair Loss Project. I'm sorry.
Yes.
To why everything she does for women and men. I love following her. She's amazing, incredibly selfless, and so are you too. So
she really is. And I have to say, I hope this isn't offensive, but I'm of a man of a certain age. She's a smoke show, and I think I should be allowed to say that without getting sued.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, brother. You take care.
I think it should be mandatory. I'll let you go.
All right. Take it easy, brother. Bye-bye.
See you, Adrian.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you, John.
I don't think she'll sue me for that, for complimenting her. But you just never know these people nowadays.
These people.
Well, she's younger.
I can't believe he's saying that about you.
She's younger.
These people.
She's younger. You know, I don't know how old she is exactly, but she's younger. 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hi, Joe, Spencer. My name's Bally. I'm from sunny Birmingham here in the UK.
Oh, wow.
Hello, Barry.
I just firstly wanted to say you guys are heroes for people like myself considering a hair transplant or medication. So in my situation, I'm a Norwood 6'7", 50 years old. I've been advised that in order to get full head coverage, I need to do a 2-day procedure, which involves taking 3,000 from the scalp, 2,000 from the beard. And I've done loads of research, but I've come across very little in terms of testimonials, experiences of people who've been through like a back-to-back 2-day procedure. And for me, I'm looking at getting it done in one hit as opposed to.
Well, let's back up for a second. So you're 50 years old now, right? And what's your Norwood classification about?
I'm a 6.
You're
Good,
6.
Strong.
Okay.
Yep.
And are you
stable?
Are you currently taking medication?
I've done minoxidil on and off for about 5 or 6 years, and I've tried Finasteride for the past year. Neither have really made a big difference. I think minoxidil wasn't really going to make a big difference.
Well, how are you doing on Finasteride as far as how do you feel on it?
I've been on it for 10 months, 1 mil a day. And I think because of in my situation where, the baldness is so progressed, and I've got a lot of miniature hairs, I think they're way beyond retrieval. So,
but how did you feel physically on taking the medication?
I've been okay. I mean, I don't think I've had any noticeable side effects. I mean, when you get to 50, you're not as solid as you were when you're in your 20s and 30s. So,
speak for yourself, bro. I'm just kidding. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. There are some doctors, and I've had them on the show. They're like, well, if you have that much hair loss, they don't see the point in taking Finasteride. As a layman and as someone who's seen, thousands of guys get hair transplants, I think Joe might agree with this. If you can tolerate the drug and you're really considering surgery and you're a Norwood 6 at 50, which I know 50 sounds old to young people, but it's still young, you could still progress. Mm-hmm. Your hair, your whatever's miniaturizing now in your donor region, you probably have more miniaturization than you realize. And unless there's some significant miniaturization mapping, you're not going to know. And the good news is we know that taking Finasteride orally can reverse the miniaturization and really strengthen that donor area so that it can be moved and it can continue to grow for many cycles to come. So that's a consideration.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can.
I've not noticed anything over a 10-month period. So, are you suggesting you just keep at it, and maybe some of those miniaturized areas? Because when I've spoken to some of the doctors out there, they've sort of suggested that those hairs are beyond sort of any help.
They may be beyond help, but you don't know what's going unless you are on monthly taking a look and measuring the density of your donor area using, a densitometer or using a digital microscope and mapping it all out. You don't know what the fuck's going on back there. 20% or 30% of your hair in the donor could be miniaturizing as we speak. And once that's moved and it's miniaturizing, how many cycles do you have left? 1, maybe 2, or once it's shed, it may just not grow back. That's a possibility as well. Joe, I'm going to let you take the rest of the call because he's asking something very specific, and I think you've dealt directly with patients who've had these multiple day procedures.
Well, yeah, but the first thing that popped into my head was a concern about the numbers that you were being quoted, but we'll get to that in just a second. I want to reiterate what Spencer was saying about medication and your situation where, 50 years old, you're not old. It's still fairly young. But when you first told us your classification, you said a Norwood 6 /7 or something along those lines. Yeah. And then when Spencer asked you to clarify, you said a Norwood 6. or he's a Norwood 6. It's not just the donor area. It is the demarcation area, but from hair to skin, from hair to scalp, that can also continue to expand down into the donor area from the crown, from the sides, from the parietal humps. The parietal humps can drop, which are if you look at the top of someone's scalp, that's a Norwood 6. They'll have these two triangular patches that kind of come in towards the center of the scalp. Those are called the parietal humps. Those can disappear, and then the sides can drop, and that's when you get into being a Norwood 7. So, at the very least, that's what the medication can prevent. You know, when I first got my repair surgery with Dr. Wong 22 years ago now, or 21 and a half years ago, I had not been on Finasteride. I was classified as being beyond a Norwood 6 / repair patient, meaning I could continue to be a Norwood 7, and there were Norwood 7s in my family. My uncle on my dad's side was a Norwood 7. My father eventually became close to that. And with the Finasteride use, my crown area, the demarcation between donor and crown loss actually shrunk. Not a lot, but it did shrink. The parietal humps or actually I didn't really have parietal humps anymore, but the areas just below that, they were also strengthened. And then on top of that, according to Dr. Wong, my donor hair strengthened as well. So it is imperative to stay on the medication well beyond the age of 50 if you're seeing any sort of benefit whatsoever. And that can simply be an arrest of your loss, like keeping it from getting worse. You don't even have to have a visual improvement for it to be considered to be working.
Mm-hmm. I mean, okay. I've suggested Norwood 6 and 7 just because when I've gone to different clinics, one's assessed me as 6, one's assessed me as 7.
Yeah.
You know, so I've got diffuse thinning all over the top, but my humps and I've got the crowns dipped, but there is still a reasonable donor size. It's weak in terms of the number of grafts, and hence why when I've given those graft counts, you know, they're looking at, you know, again, I've done it with multiple clinics to get independent advice, and they've all sort of suggested broadly around about 3,000 from the safe donor area. And then because
sorry, real quick, Barry, let me interrupt you. Are you a clean Norwood 6? Like there's really not much hair on top and in the crown, or is it more of a diffused Norwood 6 where you have? Okay, and how would you? This is hard to quantify verbally, but how would you classify the amount of hair that you have in that thinning, diffused area? Is it enough hair to style? Like if you grow it out longer, can you style it and it just looks thin, or is it genuinely like see-through all the way to the scalp from front to back?
It's see-through. You know, I would say you know about 80% of it's gone. There's where the vertex is. That's probably where it's strongest, but it's still sort of see-through. So essentially, you know, I keep it short. I keep it like grade 2 on top with it sort of faded into grade 1. So it sort of looks, when it's short all over, it kind of looks more even. And essentially, you know, if, you know, I'm interested in a transplant because, you know, if I can get coverage across the top, you know, the front, you know, all over, you know, the top and the front of the scalp along with the crown, then it will look more balanced as opposed to, you know, it looks, you know, it's darker on the sides and the below the crown, and then it's sort of diffused thin all over on top.
So you're hoping to have a result where you don't look front heavy. You want to address the crown so it's more of a balanced front to back look.
I want a balanced look overall, but then because the front third has gone more than where the vertex is, so essentially, you know, there's like a marginally better band that goes from ear to ear, if that makes sense. But then the front third is very thin, and then the crown is, there's a big crown area, which is dipped into the safe donor area. So the safe donor area is actually sort of made smaller because I've got like a double crown. So hence, it goes back to the estimates I had of 3,000 from the back, which then won't provide good coverage all across the top of the head, which means that we have to attack the beard for the grafts there.
Well, okay, so let's go back to the original question. How do I feel about you going in for a 2-day session for essentially 5,000 grafts, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll answer that question first, or I'll answer the question with a question. Are you hoping that this 2-day surgery is the only surgery that you need, or are you understanding of the fact that you'll need more surgery to achieve your goal, most likely?
Yeah, I'm okay with one additional surgery. So, I'd rather get a large amount done, so hit the front and the back in one go, and then come back for a top-up 12 months later, as opposed to just get the front, third done, then come back a year later, I'd rather get more done in one go, but I'm open to seeing what the donor area is after it's 3,000 have been taken out.
Right, and can you explain the distribution that they talked about with the beard and the beard grafts and the scalp grafts? Are they going to mix it from front to back? Are they going to put the beard in one spot, scalp hairs in another spot? What's their plan on this?
They'll mix it, so it will be scalp. Start off at the front with scalp, and then mixed with beard and scalp as we progress back. So more density at the front, with it weaning back based on the availability of grafts. But the idea is to cover, the whole head as best we can strategically. And the clinic,
so here's my take on this, and I have to assume this is an FUE procedure for both donor regions. Okay, so a lot of people don't like to take this approach, but I think it's the safest one, because you're dealing with. I'm assuming that your clinic said that you don't have much more than. Actually, I don't want to assume anything. What was the estimate that you have for total number of grafts in your scalp donor area?
That's a good question. I've not asked that question. Okay.
So they didn't tell you that you have maybe 5,000 grafts total in your donor area. That's why we're going to tap into your beard grafts on the first surgery. They didn't say anything like that.
Exactly. That's right.
Okay.
And no one, and all of the clinics have said, you do the first procedure, then we'll assess what donor is like for a second procedure. So no one's come back. I've done 4 different clinics: Turkey, India, and the UK. And no one's, based on the in-person or photo consultations, suggested what's the but I'd be interested in knowing what the total count could be.
Well, I think that's imperative to find out, because you can't really plan anything appropriately. I mean, look, if you were to tell me that the clinic said, yeah, you got maybe 4,000, 5,000 total in your donor area, and then we think you probably got 4,000 total in your beard, like you got a good healthy beard and get 4,000 grafts out of that. That's potentially 9,000 grafts that we have to work with. Now, you can't just take the donor from the beard and stick it anywhere you want, because you put too much in one area, then it tends to stand out and doesn't really look well. You got to blend it properly. But because you don't have any sort of game plan based on future probabilities, I think that you shouldn't have surgery at all until you actually get that kind of information, because you can't plan anything. I always tell people, and I mentioned to you, like, are you ready for a second surgery after this first one, regardless of it's 1 or 2 days? That's irrelevant. Are you ready for a second surgery to reach your goals? But in your case, I don't even think you know what the goal is, because you don't know what raw materials you have to work with to actually create a goal, right? Because if you know what you have to work with, or better stated, what you don't have to work with, then you can come up with a goal that might be different than what you have now. Because a lot of guys that are Norwood 6s, Norwood 7s, I'll tell them, you know what, maybe do the first surgery for the front, see how you like it, and then if you still want more, it's still there. You can go back and get a second surgery for the front, but you're also not wasting or potentially wasting all of those grafts in one session if something doesn't work out, which is another issue when you're doing these big sessions of 4,500 on up in one session. What if you have bad growth and you have limited donor resources? You just screwed yourself. You don't have any options, period. Especially if you're going into your beard and your scalp donor, in the first run. So I think that before you make any decision about a clinic, you need to talk to these clinics about your total donor resources, what they think based on, hopefully, if you can't see them in person, some really good photographs, some really good video, things like that. They should be asking for that if they can't see you in person.
Where's the clinic?
Sorry, what was the question?
Where's the clinic? What's the clinic?
Darling Buds is one of them, but there's others as well. So I'm still open in terms of the clinic. But Darling Buds is, you guys used to reference them many years ago, but I've not heard anything from yourselves on that clinic for quite some time.
Well, I would think that Dr. Body would really want to do a more thorough assessment of your particular situation. Or anybody, actually. And I think it really is, again, you're only 50. I know that sounds like you're saying, oh, you're 50 years old. You still have a lot of possible hair loss coming. You don't even realize it. You seem to be a stable Norwood 6, but you ever see these guys who are 60 years old and they're severely bald and their donors are just depleted? They're very thin. That doesn't just happen. It's not like, okay, I've reached a certain point. I've been balding for 30 years. It's still progressing in these guys. They may have had a full-looking donor area when they were 50 years old.
I mean, that's true, and I've listened to a lot of your content. But the way I look at it is, it doesn't look great now. So what damage, so the finance doesn't really matter a great deal. So, for me, it doesn't look great now. It's diffuse, thinning all over Norwood 6. If I can get, 5,000 grafts that I don't really, need in the back of my head or in the under the beard.
Well, there's two things. You may not need them in the back of your head right now, but if your hair continues to miniaturize in the back and the sides, the hair that you moved is going to miniaturize, and you're going to look even more depleted in the back because you're going to have more miniaturization plus scar tissue. So that's my thing about if you can tolerate medication and you're considering surgery and going in for large sessions, you should really consider staying on medication. And I think most responsible physicians would tell you to do the same thing. That's number one. Number two, from what I heard from the advice Joe was giving you, it doesn't seem like you are fully prepared for what may come down the line. So, there's nothing wrong with starting off a little slower, working with a clinic that is willing to do smaller procedure to kind of like give you an established hairline and mid-interior scalp, and try to save or try to manage your donor hair for as long as you can so that you can have, you're going to need multiple surgeries down the line. I know everyone wants one and done, but if something happens, I think Joe's right, you could be fucked. Now, if something happens to 2,000 or 2,500 grafts, that's not great either.
But isn't that the potential for that to happen anyway? So, because if I went with one procedure, we'd use the scalp to do the front because that's obviously the one where you get the most sort of frontal visual. You get the hairline recreated. So I'm only going to potentially save my beard grafts
Right, but let's say yes, it could potentially happen with anybody. But let's say it happened in this particular clinic that day. Let's just say the technician had a hangover who was handling your grafts, and they destroyed or crushed or unfortunately manipulated in the wrong way 40% of those grafts, and they're gone. That's always a possibility. So. Listen, to me, it's always better to do it in stages if you can, especially given your particular situation and the fact that you're, I don't know if you're willing to take medication, but if you're unwilling to take medication, honestly, I think that it could be a mistake to get a large session anyway.
No, the medication I'm fine with, but then if we go through that, if I just got to the front done with the scalp, donor area, then all I've done is delayed a year before I can go back and address the crown. If we keep it simple, say the front half, and then we crown area for us.
Look, I totally get that, but it's also possible that once you get the mid-interior and the hairline done, you may realize, you know what, I look pretty. I really like the way I look. I don't really need the crown right now. Let me save it just in case. I start to lose more hair in the mid-anterior scalp.
For me, it's either get it done properly, not sort of, as I've seen, nothing wrong with those individuals, but, where they just get the front done, so they end up with a big tuft at the front, but then they've got like myself, a large crown area that's exposed, and I just think, well, actually, in that scenario, I wouldn't grow it out, I'd keep it short. So, I don't understand for me, I've seen a lot of people who in a lot of, before and afters, I just don't personally get why they want a big, tuft at the front and nothing at the back.
They want that tuft in the front, if it's done correctly, to frame their face, which is really what people see when they're looking at you and what they're seeing in the mirror. So for them, it makes them feel comfortable. It also gives you the option, if you cut your hair short, to keep it all kind of uniform. Even if the back has significant thinning, but it gives you it can give you a really nice, again, framing of your face and completely change your look. But listen, we're not here. Well, I guess we are here to talk you out of surgery. We're here to kind of give you the best advice we can.
Yep.
We know what you want. Is it possible that you're going to get what you want going in this direction? It's possible. But you're also putting yourself up for a lot of risk for potential complications down the road, in my view.
Not to mention, we've not even talked about the potential that a lot of doctors talk about where finasteride can inhibit body hair growth, including beard growth. So you're kind of in a pickle right now where you're looking at 40% of your grafts to be used will be from your beard, and that beard hair might be inhibited by the very medication you're using to save your hair. So that's another pickle that you have to maybe consider.
I mean, I'm struggling to understand that. So what do you mean by that? I mean,
well, finasteride has been targeted, or has been labeled by plenty of hair restoration specialists as being an inhibitor of body hair growth. Whereas, if you have body hair growing, like beard, you got a beard, you got chest hair, you got back hair, whatever, you start taking finasteride, it doesn't grow as strong as it did before you started taking finasteride. In fact, Dr. Umar in Southern California, one of the more widely known body hair specialists, he tells his patients not to take it because of that very reason. So I think it's important for you to talk to these clinics that you've been dealing with and ask them their opinion on that, and see what they say.
Yeah, I mean, so far I have consulted Vera in Turkey, Eugenics in India, Darling Buds in India, and a UK clinic, 2 clinics in the UK. And the ones that do entertain body hair transplants, they've not said anything, and that includes, these are all, top tier clinics, they've all suggested, we can't, I've not done an in-person consultation with the ones outside of the UK, so including Dr. Batty, so, that will happen.
I don't want to contradict Joe because he's right about it, but the thing is, if you're already taking it for 10 months, the thing about beard growth is that you can see it cycles fast, and you would see if you had diminished beard growth in 10 months, in my view.
Yeah, that thought passed through my mind, but it's still worth considering as a factor.
But I will tell you that, while I don't think it affected my beard at all, actually, it did. I had, before I started Finasteride, I had more hair on my hands. Not a lot, but a little bit. I was never really a hairy person, but I noticed that, I have the hands of a young woman at this point. And, that wasn't the case before I started when I was in my 20s. However, to my knowledge, it hasn't affected my beard growth at all.
Mm-hmm. But what about then the original question, which is, what's your opinion on these sort of mega sessions or 2-day back-to-back sessions? Because obviously, any of the reputable clinics are not going to be able to achieve, high numbers in one day, so they split it over 2-3 days. In my mind, I'm just thinking, gosh, coming day one, taking from one area with all of the anesthetics, sort of all of the drugs, all the injections, and then having another ordeal.
Well, to me, I would rather have done that than do the live Global Hair Loss Summit conference for 3 days in a row. But with that said, Joe, are you there?
Yeah.
But with that said, it was a funny joke, Joe. You would have laughed if you were listening.
Sorry.
But with that said, there are plenty of patients who do have the back-to-back surgeries in 2 days in a row, and in the right clinic, in the right atmosphere. While it sounds daunting, they're usually pretty comfortable. And so that's not the issue, I don't think. I know of, I think Adrian's one of those guys, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's had beard hair.
But he's also had back-to-back surgeries, in consecutive days.
He had several days, yeah. He was there for, I think, 6 days, 7 days.
And just so you know, that was kind of the way the FUE was done at the beginning. That's the way Ray Woods would do the Woods technique. He would have you there for several days, but he was only moving a few hundred grafts a day. But so it's nothing new, and it's definitely doable. And if you're healthy, there are many surgeons who will do that. With that said, there are surgeons who can move a lot of grafts in one day. So it's even really great facilities that have the manpower, the staff, and they're also strong surgeons themselves, meaning that they have the physical wherewithal, the eyesight, the eye-hand coordination, and the stamina to stick there for 8 hours and move a lot of grafts for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So here's all we can do is we're going to take another call. You have to be completely confident in the fact, and that's why maybe having in-person consultations, if possible, even though you're not going, even locally, to get another assessment. See if there's anybody in the IHS that's locally that works with Joe, that works with us, that could give you a consultation to get an idea of what your reality is. Have you done that yet?
I think that's a great show. No, I think that's really good advice, and something I'll pick up next week.
And you can let them know that you are considering surgery elsewhere, but you pay for their time. It won't cost you a lot, a couple of bucks, a couple $100, pounds, whatever. But it's going to be well worth it for you to get an honest assessment, third party, someone that you're paying for this assessment, letting them know you can't afford to have surgery, you don't want to have surgery locally. These are the choices, but you want to get an honest assessment. They'll give it to you without trying to sell you surgery.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant advice. I'll take that forward. But I still think part of the argument about not doing it, and sort of you might regret it if you thin out further. I just think, well, attempting it is better than the current situation, and even if the bag looks a bit more depleted, I just cut it shorter. So just grade 2, grade 1 all over.
Well, listen, if you understand what the possibilities are, and you're willing to take the time, the emotional effort, the travel, the money for potential failure, which...
But I always think it's a potential failure as it is today, so, with it being diffused.
Yeah, I'm saying, if you're willing to take that risk and understand that it may not turn out the way that you want, or it may just be short-term, depending on your particular situation, then yeah. I mean, you're going to India. You're not going to be spending a tremendous amount of money anyway. And if you could afford it, yes, there's always a risk. Anytime you have surgery, you're essentially going under the knife. You're being, injected with medication, anesthetic, lidocaine. There's a slight risk of anything happening. But if you're willing to take all those risks and you understand that there is a possibility that things won't work out for you the way you want them to, and you don't think that you're going to be worse off, then whatever, then you know yourself better than anybody else. We're just trying to give you all the information you need to make the most informed decision you can.
The safest decision you can.
You guys are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also want to just challenge back and throw back and say, it's worth a shot, in my view, because what's the worst that can happen? I mean, as long as you go to a reputable clinic.
You could die on the table.
You could
You have a heart attack.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that could happen anyway.
You weren't expecting that, were you? Come on, what else you got? Come on.
You could have severe necrotic scalp, and you could lose half your scalp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, but then you wouldn't have the first procedure and do the frontal third, would you? In that scenario, because all of those scenarios could happen if I just did the front, to create the hairline at the front.
Yeah, every scenario can happen.
Yep.
You could die of a heart attack. Your skin could die. Even if you have 2,000 grafts, it could all happen.
Yep.
These are all real possibilities that there are people out there walking around right now who went to very reputable doctors who once they finally signed on a dotted line, if they would have read those release forms, those what are they called, Joe? Not release forms.
Disclaimers.
Disclaimers. Well, why can't I think of it? Jesus, I hate when that happens. If once you sign on that dotted line, you read all of the possible complications. The reason they're listed is because that shit happened to somebody.
Yeah.
So that's all. As long as you know what you're getting into, I do think that at the very least, spend a couple of bucks to have a third-party assessment from a professional.
Yep. No, that's brilliant advice. Yeah.
All right, brother.
And then,
good luck. We're going to take some more calls, but let us know what you decide to do. Let us know if you decide to have a consultation with someone locally, let us know how it goes.
I will do. Okay.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Thanks for calling. He's going to have a surgery.
He could, listen, he may benefit greatly from the surgery, but it's important that he knows what he's getting into. That's all.
Well, and look, he presented every reason why he should. God bless him. We did what we could. And he may be perfectly happy, and that's fine. So,
well, I'm not even trying to necessarily talk him out of it. I was just trying to provide him with, okay, you're Norwood 6 now. You're currently taking finasteride, but you don't think it's really helping you. Well, if you're not having side effects, you probably want to stay on it if you're going to have surgery, number one, because of this, and this. But then you kind of get the pushback on, well, it's not really working for me. How do you know? How do you know what your donor area is going to look like in 5 years if you stop taking finasteride?
100%.
No one thinks of that. I don't know why. It's just such common sense. No matter what the industry says, and we'll take your calls in a second, people. No matter what the industry says, no matter what someone in a white coat tells you, your hair transplant might not be permanent. And it's definitely kind of fluid. It's going to change over time. And the longer you keep that hair in an anagen phase, the longer you keep those life cycles going, the longer your hair transplant is going to last.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it doesn't make sense to people. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hello, Spencer. It's me. You posted the reel about, the Botched job.
Hey, brother. How you doing, man? That was great content.
Right. This guy who called earlier, I'd advise him to be patient as well, because I was in that same situation. My family said to me, don't do it, just wait another year, wait another few years. And, because I had a consultation in the UK with another clinic at that point. So one day before the surgery, they were going to do the surgery, and one day before that, so I went, they said, drop the money off, so I went and dropped the money off in cash. And then the doctor looked at me and he said, oh, your donor's miniaturizing. And I'm thinking, this guy's turned me down. I've prepared my mind for surgery. But then I've booked a clinic in Turkey.
So wait a second. So you were there actually to drop off the cash, which is interesting to me. But to drop off the cash, he took a closer look. Now, let me ask you. So you weren't originally sold the surgery by a doctor. You were sold the surgery originally by a consultant in the UK?
Right. So the doctor is in Leeds, yes. I'm not going to mention the name. They're a big clinic. So
sure.
So the doctor's wife advised it. She said, 2,000 grafts, £8,000 at the time. So I got some money off my family. They lent me it for the transplant, so I thought I'd go ahead. They told me not to do it, but I just had it in my head. I wasn't listening. Like the last guy, he wasn't listening to you. He was saying probably. So, I went and then the doctors checked it. He said donor miniaturization. He said, go on meds for 1 year and then we'll assess it in a year's time. And I'm like, fuck this, I'm going Turkey. And I spoke to some guy who was speaking on TikTok, who claims to be an expert.
Jesus. I don't mean to laugh. That's very common now, so you're not alone, but it's unbelievable.
He's referred me to this clinic. We became good friends. There's me thinking this is like one of the best in my head. Like, this is going to be a really good clinic he sent me for £2,000 and I'm going to get the best experience.
Are you there?
50 grafts, which don't even feel like 4,050 grafts.
So, this is a very interesting story, actually, because I have to give props to the doctor in Leeds who, even though his wife sold you a hair transplant, she obviously didn't know how to assess your surgery. She was just doing consultations. That's her job. Yeah. She should have known, but
over video call.
On a video? Oh, Jesus Christ. That's even worse. This whole world, I'm sorry, it's so insane what goes on. So thank God that the doctor was an ethical man.
Yeah, the doctor's a very, a well-known doctor in the hair transplant community.
That's great. I'm proud. You don't have to mention his name if you feel uncomfortable, but that's a great thing to hear. So, and I think that it's interesting, and I know that you're young, but it's interesting that, because a lot of guys would do the same thing, you wanted this so badly that even though a physician, you just handed him a bag of money, and he said, we can't take your money. That wasn't enough to turn you off.
I think it was just, I had it in my head, so I've got Asperger's and autism, so I had it in my head that I need to do something. I've had it from like a young age. I've got something in my head that I need to go and do it, and nobody's going to stop me. So once someone spoke this into about a transplant. So I was at a snooker lounge and I seen one of my uncle's friends, and he was losing hair as well. And I had a hat on, and he's like, let's both go get a transplant. I didn't even have the transplant in my idea in my head. I had the transplant idea for this year, 2024. I was planning on getting, or 2025 at the time. So someone's put that into my head, and then he's got me to contact a few clinics, you know, in Harley Street consultation. And in the Harley Street clinic, that the woman that he knew that works there turned me down, said he's too young, and so someone's put it in my head. Otherwise, I would have still been. I would have held it down for another few years.
Well, listen, I understand, and I know that you're saying, you know, that you're blaming the Asperger's, but I got to tell you this: people without Asperger's would do the exact same thing as you. So it has nothing to do with your autism, brother.
No, it's when I'm obsessed with someone. Like I was obsessed with getting it done.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand, but you know, again, this is such an emotional issue for so many people that, you know, these guys, like you said, the last caller, 50-year-old man, can't talk him out of it. It's not going to happen.
No, he's done. He's committed.
Yeah.
I was on the chair for 12 hours with fucking texts, and I was so pissed off. I felt like getting off and punching them because it was 12 hours. I don't know what they were saying. They had to call the manager of the clinic because I was swearing, because it was taking so long. And I was thinking, I got told it was 8 hours. It ended up being 12 hours. I don't know why it was 12 hours. My hair, I wasn't even that bad of it. Like, the baldness wasn't too bad. It was like a Norwood 4, but it felt like I was a Norwood 7, the way it was taking so long.
Well, a couple of things could have happened. They could have been using newer techs who are having problems. You know, extracting those grafts.
They were young guys, yeah.
Yeah, extracting those grafts well and intact, that is not easy. And that's why it's interesting to me that the industry has now turned to literally almost slave labor to perform this incredibly intricate and delicate and nuanced form of microsurgery. Like, how this is happening is unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I had a friend ring me last week, and he's saying, "Oh, where did you get your transplant from?" I said, "Bro, don't do it. Go on minoxidil, finasteride, look into that." He said, "Oh, bro, I want to get it done in one session, the full head." So I said, "Oh, I'll give you a physician from England, UK, called Dr. Ted, and you can contact him. He does transplants. You know, he's fairly reasonable." This guy saying, I'm going to pay £2,000. Turkey, they're the top of the, you know, the clinic, like they're the top of it, this, that. Like, I was trying to speak him out of it because he's a diffuse thinner, but people don't want to.
Why don't you tell him to listen to the show and to call in?
I am gonna. But these guys don't. They just want to get it done. They're not bothered now. Like,
you're right about that, and that's why I could do this till I'm 100 years old if I'm still around.
Yeah.
So many people are getting fucked up every day. Excuse me, Joe. Every day now that, you know, like if I wanted to just start an organization just for repair surgery, just repairs, like that's what we'll call it, justrepairs.com. It'll be if I wanted to like start a clinic here in Los Angeles or anywhere, justrepairs.com, we could work. It would be an incredible amount of volume. We'd be booked out for years.
I've got a big following on TikTok, and you know, I get loads of guys messaging me. Like, I could send all these guys to the clinic and make £200.
How big is your following on TikTok?
But I could have, because I don't want another kid getting fucked over. I made a video on my transplant. I sent it to Joe, and I showed the viewers that I've had not a good hair transplant outcome, and to like warn others, if you know what I'm saying. How big is your following?
How big is your following on TikTok?
I've got 65,000 followers.
So, what you can do
point
is
them to the show.
You could help them and talk about the show.
Yeah.
Tell them this is what happened to you. Contact these guys. You're not going to sell anything.
Yeah.
And they'll get help.
Yeah.
So do that. Do that for the people out there, brother. If you have 65,000 people following you, and you know you could help them through us, Jesus, you'll be helping a lot of people, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad. Yes, of course you can make money
I'll make
doing
a video on it.
consultations, but you don't want to do that. That's a terrible. I mean, that's the last thing you want to do, brother.
Yeah, like I'm thinking now, I don't even want to get retired. Yeah, I'm thinking of just riding out for another 3 years, maybe even 5 years, because I think like I can fiber it and just ride it out for a bit.
Well, you should write it out. You don't
Yeah,
need to get
of
repaired
course.
yet. I could take a look at it.
As long as possible.
You said you sent Joe a TikTok?
Yeah, Joe's got me. Joe viewed the video. I think Joe had the message sent to him.
Was it on Instagram that you sent it to me?
Yeah. It was on Instagram. Shall I message you now, Joe?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll quickly message you the video now.
You have 65,000 followers who are asking you about your hair.
Your name looks familiar.
Send them to this broadcast, brother.
Yeah.
Do a video. Do a video on the Bald Truth. Do a video on Joe. Whatever.
Supporting us. Absolutely.
Joe, have you got it?
Have
you got it? I've sent you it.
Oh yeah, there you are. There you are, buddy. Yeah.
Tell them to follow me on Instagram. Jesus, you got a lot of people following you.
Yeah, so I kind of told them that I went through someone.
Kind of on what?
I had a lot of people, I told them that I went through someone that claimed to be a so-called mentor, guide people to clinics. And then this guy, he's all right with me. Like, he's messaged me the other day, I'm sorry, I didn't know what your budget was. I sent you to this clinic, blah, 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 blah,
Well,
he said to me, it's not a hair mill and they only take one patient a day.
Well, here's the thing. You had a bad experience. The hair didn't grow well for you, right? You think you were botched. So, I mean, no matter what this cat says to you, he's sending a lot. He's obviously, if he got you, he's sending a lot of people there.
The thing is, I've got an alopecia mark now. After the hair transplant, I've got an alopecia mark at the back. It's a bald patch. And it hasn't gone for 1 year. It's a small bald patch.
Are you sure it's alopecia areata or is it shock loss and trauma from the surgery?
I think it's the surgery because my donor hair used to be, it wasn't the best, but it was still thick from the back.
Well, Joe, you should be in contact with this guy. And brother, man, you should really talk about the program, talk about your experience. If you have those many followers and you've been through what you've been through, you could help a lot of people. You were conned, sadly, by one of these so-called influencers who end up they get commissions to send people.
Yeah, the original guy who I went through was Spencer Stevenson that I found out through this show. So I messaged Spencer Stevenson, and he said he was going to get me on the show once with you. And, yeah, so he was saying, I never contacted him after a year, but he did want to get me on the show, him and you.
Well, we can definitely do that at the Bald Truth UK for sure, if you want to do that. But you're also on this show, and just your message is helping a lot of people to understand what's going on. But I got to tell you, if you have 65, I'm going to repeat myself because it's important. If you have 65,000 people following you and you get a lot of views to your videos, you can do a lot of good with 1 or 2 videos, sending them, talking about your experience, sending them to the show, telling them to follow me on Instagram, to follow Joe. That alone will save thousands of lives. Something as simple as that, if you have those many followers.
Yeah.
And as far as your particular case is concerned, I think you're smart to wait, see what happens. And also, you should send Joe a picture of your donor just to see whether or not he thinks it's shock loss, because it doesn't sound, it's possible to all of a sudden have alopecia areata. That's the way it happens, but it kind of seems like he may have been over-harvested. There may have been some damage to the area, and, who knows? You want to check it out.
Send it to me.
I've spoke to Dr. Mittal as well, and, he just said, call him for a consultation. He's not certain on surgery, but he did say, call in and, speak to him. So we did have a long conversation, me and Dr. Mittal, over TikTok messages.
And how was that?
Mm-hmm.
It was good. He seems very, he doesn't seem like them guys who want your money.
Well, let's put it this
Yeah.
way. Everyone in this industry likes to make money, but there are those who understand what they're doing and how this affects people's lives. And they're making money in a good way. They're helping people. And, there's some guys like Manny who are willing to just talk to people and guide them in the right direction. And they realize that, it's a lot worse for them. Anyone with scruples and ethics understands that it's a lot worse for their practice. It's a lot worse for their karma to just take a few $1,000s from a kid and fuck them up for the rest of their lives. So I'm glad you're speaking to Manny. I'm glad that you reached out to Spencer Stevenson. What was that?
Like I wish I went on the meds 3-4 years ago when I noticed it, and I could have had a good outcome.
You know what? You're still young, and you may be able to do well on the medication right now, better than you think. Guys within the first 5, 6, 7 years of hair loss. Listen, I couldn't get on Finasteride for about 7 years. It didn't exist. No one knew about it. Yeah, I mean, it was approved by the FDA for prostate enlargement in 1992, but no one was writing about it or researching it until 1994 for hair loss. That's when I first read about it. That's when I got on it.
Yeah, the good thing is my sister and brother-in-law, they're both pharmacists, so they told me about the drug, Finasteride and minoxidil. That's when I started looking into it.
Well, you should look into it. You should continue to talk to Manny. Find yourself a good doctor that you feel comfortable with to at least talk to and get advice from. And we're always here to talk as well, brother. So good luck, man. And you know what? I'm telling you, if you're going to tell your story, tell people what happened. Tell people about the bald truth. Tell people about Joe.
If you can, Joe, if you can set a call up with Spencer Stevenson, Spencer Kobren, if you guys can set a call up one day on, I don't know, and you want me to join the podcast, I can happily do that. I can join it sometime soon, and obviously share awareness about it.
100%. I mean, what I guess when Spencer Stevenson, I think, is on vacation, we could do something with the Bald Truth UK for sure. Just that's kind of what we do. Kind of have a guest caller call in. We can make you the guest that week.
I'll even go down to London, and see him personally. It's not even about money or anything. It's just about helping others from getting screwed over in the industry.
All right, brother. Well, listen, we'll make that happen. But your first step is tell people about this broadcast. Tell people to follow at Spencer Kobren on Instagram. Tell people to follow Joe Tillman. It's easy because at least they're going to have the information at their fingertips. You're not going to convince everybody not to do it. You're not going to convince everybody to follow us, but at least they'll start, and maybe they'll take a little time and look at our stuff, and they'll realize, wait a second, I need to do more research.
Yeah,
that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
All right, brother, man.
Thank you guys.
Maybe we'll use some of this clip on my Instagram as well. But I think keep waiting. Don't rush into anything. Talk to Manny and some other docs. Get yourself on medication if you feel that's what you want to do. And you're young, so it doesn't mean that your hair is destroyed at this point.
No, not at all.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right, good luck.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for calling.
I'm begging you. I'm like, just please tell these people about us.
I know, right? No, it's not about being on the show. Just make a video of your own.
Yeah, like no matter
TikTok
what,
saying, go
no matter,
here.
you can come on the show anytime you want, brother. But if you have 65,000 followers, all you have to do is say, look, I made this mistake. You don't have to do this. Go check out this guy's show, these guys' show. Follow Spencer Kobren at Spencer Kobren on Instagram. Put out the link on your TikTok. That's all you have to do. That'll change thousands of lives. Like I'm trying to get signs. I'm trying to wave them in.
He wasn't grasping onto it. It's a great story anyway, and when he does come on to Bald Truth Talk UK, I'm sure it'll be a great episode with him sharing his experience and helping others.
Absolutely.
No, it was all good. All good. I recognized the name in the chat room, and then I recognized the story. So, yeah. Now I remember that I know the guy, or I know
you have
the
to
guy.
send me his TikTok. I don't even have TikTok. I don't have the app on my phone. I was looking at it on my browser. All right. Like I don't know if I need to make a sign like at Spencer Kobren. Just do that.
Yeah, yeah.
You have 65,000 people who are interested in your hair transplant that you feel was fucked up. Just do this at Spencer Kobren on Instagram. You'll change your lives. That's all. I was trying to get him to hear me.
I know.
He's a good kid, and I feel bad that he went through what he went through. But I think I'll have to look. Have you seen what does his head look like?
Well, I've not seen the donor area, but he's doing that deal where he brushes his hair forward. So I don't know if it's failed or not. I don't know. I need to watch some of those videos again. I can't watch them right now, but it's almost all videos, not photos, since it's TikTok. So
yeah. All right. Well, listen, we're going to go, guys. We have no calls right now, and we would have taken another call because Joe was late today. And
but I'm on a series of 24-hour fastings right now, and
why would you fast on a Friday?
I'm fasting every day for the next couple of days. Just dinner. Every 24 hours, I'll have dinner. That's it. That's my thing right now.
That's craziness.
I know it's crazy. I'm trying to kickstart something.
What, autophagy? You trying to reverse your aging process, Joseph?
I'm trying to be like what's his name? Brian. What's his name? The 45-year-old that looks no older than 43.
Oh, we're gonna have to get you some new equipment.
Anyway, I need to go to the store. Get for tonight.
All right. Well, guys, we're gonna call it a night. Tell people, everyone who's listening, follow me at Spencer Kobren on Instagram. I'm putting a little bit more effort into it. We can help a lot of people. Follow Joe at what's your Instagram?
At Joe Tillman Official.
At Joe Tillman Official.
Because there's so many fakers out there.
There's a lot of fake Joe Tillmans. Joe Tillman's YouTube channel is the Hair Transplant channel. That's youtube.com/Hair Transplant Mentor. It's also confusing to me. Until next time, guys, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening. Take care.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the programme, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid.